Welcome to the Road Ahead podcast. I am your host, Josh, and with me today is John from Claydon Cycling Club. John is the chairman at Claydon Cycling Club, and today we're going to find out a bit about youth cycling, a bit about community support and outreach, and I think some really interesting things along the way, given our sort of green room discussion. So, John, can you just give us a bit of insight as to what started Claydon Cycling Club? When did it start? What was the vision for it?
I moved to the Claydons in 2019. I was with a club in Milton Keynes at the time. I think travelling over there, 40-minute drive to go and cycle was quite a lot to ask, and I didn't really end up riding so much with them. So I looked around for local clubs to the Claydons, and the nearest club was about 5 or 6 miles away.
Yeah.
So adding 12 miles to your route, some people might like doing that. I just thought, why? I'll just ride solo. So I'd be riding solo, and I'd be seeing a lot of other riders that I knew, and they'd say, "Oh, well, have you not started your own club over there?" So I thought about it. I chatted to my wife about it and just said, well, I want to do something a little bit different. I'd been over in Milton Keynes riding slower rides, and some of the people over there I made friends with, we'd then gone on to do programs to introduce people to riding. And also with Milton Keynes, it's got a great cycle network. So I'd be cycling to work a lot more, cycling to the train station. So I thought, well, I could do something over here, but something a little bit different. But it wasn't really until someone said, you should come out riding, we should get together and go out riding, that I saw that there was interest in the village, in the villages, and we'd get together and do a few bits, and then I just thought, yes, I should go and do this.
So there are a few people from the different, because how many Claydons are there? Steeple, Botolph,
East Claydon,
many Claydons,
Calvert, Middle Claydon.
Yep.
So that's really the Claydons, and maybe Twyford as well. But we do have people coming from a little bit further out, because if you're not going to Buckingham in the north, the next club's going to be Aylesbury in the south.
Yeah.
And that's 11 miles from here. So yeah, I thought we'd do something like that, and started off very slow, very quietly, because I think we put one ride out and we had a few people appear, and then lockdown came upon us the week later. So that's how we started out. In lockdown, we introduced virtual riding, and that's where we kind of managed to get people from a lot further away, because we were doing virtual riding every Saturday and in the weekdays as well.
So you were managing the social aspect of group riding, but over Zwift, Ruby?
Over Zwift,
yeah.
with Discord as chat server. So I set everything up, and I wrote instructions on how to do it. Got everyone in there. This is before Zwift clubs came along. So yeah, we'd do regular rides. We'd do long rides and have coffee breaks halfway between, where we'd go back into our kitchens, come back to the garage with coffees and have a chat, and then carry on again.
And then did that then evolve into, you had people on Zwift, people locally, people that you'd met up with?
Yeah.
So that then evolved into the club?
Yeah, that involved, we had said this is the club we're starting, but there was nothing legally written down about the club. There was no rules or constitution or anything else like that. We weren't British Cycling affiliated, anything that people would say is standard with a club. We were just a load of people online who most we'd never met, didn't know what each other looked like, and we were just coming together, and I was just posting out online saying, we've got another ride up, just come and join in, just add me as a friend on Zwift and I'll add you into the group. We were just posting out on social media, so we had people from Milton Keynes, Oxford, maybe a bit further afield. We have some people from Japan who would come and join in with us, because it was really, really unexpected, the popularity of things like that.
So from a few villages in Buckinghamshire
Yeah.
to the international
Yeah, we had something like 26 to 30 odd riders riding on a night or an afternoon or a morning, wherever you are. And yeah, it became quite big. And I think because there's no limits to things like virtual riding, you will get more people who enjoy. Obviously, it's a free thing. You don't have to pay to be a member if you're virtual riding, because we're not insuring you. We're not doing anything like that. What you do in your own home is your own responsibility. So it went on from there, and we got back into the real world. And yeah, we had maybe 4 to 6 riders coming out. So the virtual stuff was very busy, but enjoyable as well.
So bringing it from lockdown, because we're now 2025, so lockdown started 5 years ago. But how has it developed from your original vision to today?
It's 5 years, so yeah, we've been going for nearly 5.5 years, I guess now, and just over 5 years. We started doing what is normal, a couple of categories, different speeds, but I remember when I was back at the club in Milton Keynes, we did the couch to 50Ks, and most of that is you start off on a short ride and it gets a little bit longer, and I thought I want to kind of put this a little bit more around the world of cycling.
Yeah.
So I started, I did something called Academy. So I came up with that, and it mimicked many of these couch to 50K programs. But I started it off with doing commute style rides. So right up until last year as an example, I would be going on my folding bike for the first session. I'll be going in jeans and a shirt and a helmet, and then I would be having my bag on the front of my Brompton, and I'd be saying let's ride 9 miles, which is the nearest train station. So I'd do a route of 9 miles to a cafe. We'd stop off there, talk about commute riding, talk about layering and different seasons, and then we'd ride back. Then the next ride we would then move on to things like group riding, communication, cadence, and then the next ride we would go on to hill climbing, and then finally, this is a 4-week course, we would move into navigation, managing groups, to get all the riders up to the level where they could manage their own rides themselves. They could work together. So everything they took on board there. We'd talk about nutrition, hydration, etc. So it was a bit more of a structured coaching that we wanted to do there. That's how we started, and then from there we carried on that for a while. My son wanted to, he was doing some football coaching courses. He lost interest in that and wanted to do cycling, so we looked for the nearest youth coaching club, and that was in Milton Keynes. We couldn't find anything else around. So we went over to Milton Keynes. That would be 2:00 on a Saturday afternoon. And he would do that, but then British Cycling came to me and said, we've seen what you do. Do you want to do a summer of cycling course where we will give you some funds to get some equipment and teach young people to cycle? So we did that 2.5 years ago. And we did that. We liked it. We had a good turnout, and I turned round to my wife and said, maybe we should try and do this. Maybe we should set up a youth team. We'd also, that year that we did Summer of Cycling, we'd already done a year of cyclocross with the Central Cyclocross League, and we said, yeah, let's try this out. So it's a big commitment, huge commitment. That's where we started our youth coaching from. So that's where it takes us to where we are today.
And the regular club side, you said about doing the normal thing outside of just racing. So you've got normal categorised rides where you keep together, and midweek rides as well.
Yeah. I think midweek rides, I'm not really sure where we came to the idea of that, but I wanted to get out in the middle of the week, and I put it up and advertised it, and we had quite a few people turn out with us, and we've then gone from that. We'd have a lot of people during this on-off lockdown who would come out with us when it was allowed, and do an hour's ride and then go back to the nearest pub, and then just have a bit of a social, and then 2 years ago we started doing a bit more pace lining, and just slowly from end of April through to start of October, we would slowly work up training in pace line to see what we could get to. Some riders were able to do 15 at the start of the season, and we would end the season at 21
Wow.
miles an hour as an average.
A really big improvement then.
Yeah, so really, they couldn't believe what they were able to do, but it all comes down to them just keeping on trying every week.
Do you think that comes down to the culture that you've fostered in the club as well?
When you start a club, I think if you have a lot of support, or if you have a lot of people attend, you're gonna create a lot. People are gonna come along who are a lot faster.
Yeah.
They'll have their own groups for doing that, and that might separate it. But because we're such a small club, we like to do everything together. When we set up our constitution, the First Amendment is that we ride together, we go out together, and we come back together, unless there is some serious technical issue or medical or just something that we can't fix. Unless that's the case, we all come back together, and we learn from it, and we support each other, because one of the things that I have seen in the past is people saying, I just get left behind, or I fear being left behind.
Yeah.
Well, where's the solidarity in leaving people behind? It just doesn't encourage them. That's one of the things, is if you do get dropped, as soon as you feel yourself dropping back from the queue, your mental strength is going to drop, and then your physical strength is going to drop even more.
Yeah.
So you need to keep back. I'll if I notice it happening, I'll speak to other people in the group and say, let's get that person in the middle of the group. Let's keep it all together. We're not going to make. All you're going to do if you go off in the distance is have to stop for 10 minutes and then start again. It's not going to be good for your riding. So let's keep pace. Go down a couple of gears. Keep your cadence up. So I think that's why it's the First Amendment, because we have to make sure that everyone feels supported.
Do you think there's a bit of a blurred line now between British cycling clubs and the expectation to race or go fast or just have the speed?
I think if you're talking about British cycling as an entity, I think they are definitely moving closer to what Cycling UK want to do.
Okay.
So whilst British Cycling have their race section, they really do want to encourage people to be active travelling in the same way that Cycling UK CTC do. So I think they're trying to move to cover that as well, and they see that people go out and say, well, I'm going to be a member of an organisation. Well, if you're active travelling, be a member of Cycling UK, and if you sport cycling, be a member of British Cycling. I think that British Cycling are moving now to try and cover a lot of Cycling UK's base there with what they want to do, and they're trying to maybe say to their members, we're here for you as a sport and as transport.
Cycling UK definitely seem closer to not institutions, organisations like Sustrans. So they're more, Cycling UK present more of a face of, from my experience anyway, of the active travel, of the commute, of the cargo bike, and the BC's historically in the race. But it's good that they've got that shift coming in.
Yeah, well, British Cycling is formed from two original road cycling organisations who used to fight against the ban of road cycling in the 50s. So they formed together, whilst CTC have come from the late 1800s, where they were campaigning for better roads. And, they're the ones to thank for the tarmac roads we have today, which were happening long before the car. But then, the people that stood up within CTC are also those who made a very good amount of money out of motoring afterwards.
Oh.
So those originals, people like Champion and others who do spark plugs and things like that, or the tyre manufacturers. There was a lot of people in there who then they went on from cycling to be involved in motor vehicles. So there's a big history behind that.
Yeah, I suppose I've never really known it any other way. Even speaking to my granddad, who was CTC, there was always just there are cars and there are bikes.
Yeah,
but it's interesting to think about it from the perspective of bikes predated cars.
Yes, yeah,
and the infrastructure predated being for cars to be for pedestrians and bicycles.
Exactly, like Peugeot Group and others, Rover, all making bikes before they made cars.
I didn't know Rover were.
Yeah, the Rover safety cycle. So they made that before they made cars. So
I knew Land Rover brought one out when they brought out the first Discovery, I think it was, and it was a really strange looking full suspension mountain bike branded Land Rover.
Some may call that greenwash. I don't really care.
No. Let's sort of we've talked about the clubs. I just want to briefly touch on your coaches, because you, in our discussion beforehand, you mentioned that your ride leads aren't just volunteers in that they're taking some people out on a ride. They're actual formal BC coaches.
So we do have a lot of either level 1 or level 2 British Cycling accredited ride leaders in the club. Not all ride leaders will be accredited, but when we allow someone to ride lead, they have to really meet the standards that we have seen when we've done our ride leadership. I've done the combined ride leadership with British Cycling back in 2018, and we really instill how and when we're riding two abreast, single file, how we interact with others on the road. Especially when you're wearing one of our jerseys, we want people to see it and know that they know what they're doing. I mean, not everyone's going to do that. But another thing is we have a lot of horse riders around here.
Yep.
So we make it very clear that when we're behind, when we see a horse, we need to make everyone aware there's horse head. We're going to slow down. We're going to get in contact with the riders, make sure they're happy that we pass. We have experienced some horses that just at the sight of a bicycle they want to get they'll be fearful.
Yeah.
So sometimes we've had to hide bikes in ditches. Just stand along the side of the road whilst they come past us. So if we're coming up behind or if they're on ahead, we want to stop, slow down, communicate.
Yep.
Make sure they're all happy with what's going on, because we are an entity and we all represent the club.
I suppose there's been some bad experiences for those horses then.
Yes, yeah, but we have
get outliers.
Whilst doing this as well, we've seen it before where we've stopped on the side of the road because a horse is coming the other way and they want us to. A car's overtaken the horse at the time, too close, and the rider's been able to crack the whip on their roof because they're that close.
Bloody hell.
But when we speak to horse riders who know us, they do know that we are very mindful of what they do. Mindful of them being there, mindful of their safety. So we make it clear to everyone in the club how we do stuff.
So you work not just with local entities, but you also work with stables, maybe the local hunt?
I think we know the people from who are riding the horse. We personally know them. If we're in the community, we're going to see them at the fetes. We're going to see them in the pub. We're going to see them in the shops, and they know our faces. I think the other day HS2 had closed a road and some riders were suggesting that they could get through, and we said, well, we're Claydon Cycling Club and HS2 know us by face and we're not going to go through it because just be respectful. So that sometimes when you're known a bit too well, you're not going to be doing naughty things.
No, but perhaps that helps the overall image of cycling as us and them, and reduces any of that.
Yeah.
Because if you're setting the example and you're setting the gold standard, then those people are going to see that and interpret that as John and his club are leading the standard.
Yeah, and if that means we have to go the extra mile, literally, because we're doing a detour,
Yes.
or if we're just trying to make sure that everyone gets home safe, and so if that means that a motorist is upset with us, we're not nasty to them anyway. We just let them be, and they can carry on, and then we'll carry on. We're not gonna come home in bits. You know, we still have experiences, but then we have a good relationship with the police about that, and they have always give us some good advice on their opinion, and we work towards that as well. So we have a lot of relationships with local organisations and groups.
No, it's positive to hear that you've got interactions with all parts of the community.
Yeah.
You briefly touched on slightly earlier about the Claydon Academy.
Yes.
And about your 4-week program about building people up with different skills.
Yeah.
I know it's not running this year, but can you sort of give us an idea of who you would aim that at if it was still running, and what you think the importance of organised blocks like that are?
So even though we started off with a commute, we're hoping that people see that first one and say, well, I achieved that. The next one, we always tell them what the next one's going to be and how it works. The next one's only a little bit longer, and I'm going to do this. And when we get to the hills, yes, there is a bit of fear that comes in there. But the worst thing you could do is to not do anything at all, and then a new cyclist or someone trying to get into cycling comes to a hill, and they end up having to get up and walk the bike up the hill, instead of understanding about how they can use their gears and their cadence and their breathing technique and their standing or sitting techniques to be able to get up that hill, and to be able to help people to do something they didn't think they could do is the reward of it. But then people that we've had on Academy have then gone from that, and they've changed to using public transport and cycling instead of using the car to go to work.
Oh, brilliant.
So we have people now who, instead of driving to Oxford, would get the train, and you know, we have a new train station opening soon, so hopefully we can ride 4 miles to the train station, 5 miles.
Where's your closest train station to get to Oxford at the moment?
So currently it's Bicester Village or Bicester North. I think it'd be Bicester Village for Oxford. And that's it. That's it. We've got a train line opening, the East-West Rail line.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that people can cycle to Winslow and then get the 20-minute train to Oxford, and then cycle on the other side. But we do have riders who will get over and park up at Bicester Village, and then they will take their folding bike on the train to Oxford. And so that's important, that we say to people, we're not trying to get rid of the car. We're just saying that it can be much easier to take public transport and bike. So active travel can be easier if they know how to do it. So the Academy is teaching lots of different things in it, as well as improving your distance. A lot of people think they couldn't have done it in the first place. A lot of people tell me, I thought the morning that I came to you for the first one, I was questioning whether I could have done it.
Yeah. What were the questioning that they didn't done it, that's one of the reactions. What were some of the other reactions from people that you had sign on to the Academy? What were the improvements that you saw come from them?
Confidence is the biggest one. People will say to me all the time, I had it last week, I'll get my bike out, it's gathering dust in the shed, in the garage, but I really fear going on the road. Yeah. Biggest thing is confidence on the road, positioning, riding together, fearing that you're going to get left behind again, but it is confidence. And if you can build on that confidence, and if you can talk to people in the correct way, if you can encourage them, and there's many times where I've been assisted in Academy, and I've got my assistant up the top with everyone climbing the hill, and I'm right at the back with the slowest person, but I'm still there, staying at their speed, staying next to them, and telling them how we can do it, telling them how far we've got to go, encouraging them, just teaching them and just supporting those people up the hill.
Has it been people from all walks of life, or has it been
Certainly,
Yeah.
all different shapes and sizes, all genders. We did actually have a lot more women coming along to it, and then those have gone off. One of my former graduates I've seen is in Portugal at the moment. She is doing a lot of gravel riding over there, like long distance gravel riding. Another one travels to work on a folding bike. Other ones do racing now, so it's really taken them from absolutely nothing on a bike to way beyond what I would have expected to happen. So I'm extremely proud of them all. They've done a great job.
How long did it take you to? We'll touch on some of the stuff that's you've come up with as well a bit later on. But how did you come up with the structure for the academy?
So a great friend of mine, Anne, Broughton Cycling Group, and she now works with Cycling Citizens MK. She did the Couch to 50k style. It was a program she called Flourish, and I said, I'd really love to carry on something like that. And I messaged her and said, can we do that? And she said, no, that's absolutely fine. She's a very big advocate for getting women into cycling. This is a British Cycling's Breeze program.
Yep.
And also active travel. And she, a great friend. And, that's where it took me from. But I wanted to kind of expand on that and make it a little bit more than just we're going to go and ride a distance. I wanted people to have kind of like a progress to build up from. So, saying, first we're going to do this, and then we're going to work on sprinting, and then we're going to work on working together, then we work on hill climbing and navigation. And so kind of like expanding out on what we'd done previously with Anne.
There's some of the skills I don't think would be immediately obvious. But being able to sprint, I think, is having sudden bursts of energy is important in traffic. It's the same as being reasonably quick in the car.
Yeah.
Just being able to get yourself out of a situation reasonably quickly.
Yeah.
Hill climbing, conserving the energy, descending, making sure you're safe, but getting somewhere quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And also around that at the start, we would talk about the ABCDE check on your bike. Something that we do as with all riders really, but teach people how to change an inner tube. You're on your way to work and an inner tube goes, you have to dart into a coffee shop and get the espresso on order whilst you're changing up your tube. A lot of people do not know how to change an inner tube.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people it can take a while as well once they've not done it.
Yeah.
I think for those that have been doing it a while or have worked in industry, there'll be mechanics watching that have got calluses on the insides of their hands from excessive tyre putting ons.
Yes.
Particularly around things like I worked in a bike shop in Brighton, and London to Brighton weekend was tyre.
Yeah. Well, last thing a bike shop wants to be doing is changing inner tubes. It's an inner tube's going to cost you £6 to £8.
Yep.
And then your time, it might be 20 minutes of your time. That's a fair amount. So when you go back to the person and say, well, it's going to cost you £25,
Yep.
They're not going to like that idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, get your own inner tubes and give it a go.
Yeah. It's frustrating for the consumer, but the bike shops have to cover the time.
Yes, yeah. Because it's not just the price of the inner tube, it's the price of the employee, the rent, the electricity, etc.
Yep. And the time away from more, not to sound mercenary, but more profitable services.
Exactly. More profitable, exactly.
So it's about making sure that bottom line's there. If someone calls me, I'll always give them advice on how to change a tube or all the rest of it, but I will say it is going to be this cost.
Yeah, but the lovely thing about that is you've got channels online where you can just check this stuff out and you can get lots of different opinions on ways to do it, but the core of it is quite simple once you've spent time looking at it, so it just needs a little bit of time.
Did you help people get within the academy? You taught skills within that skill set. Did you teach people how to put together a sort of mobile repair kit at all? Or
yeah, I used to show them I said to them, you don't have to spend a lot of money on these things. A lot of these things come free with a bike. You'd probably get a tool kit with a bike. Just get a sports bottle, and that can be your toolkit. You just put it in your, because you get, 2 cages on there, one for water and one for your sports bottle. You don't have to buy a special toolkit. Just shove it in there. Once you want to upgrade, feel free. But if you want to get going, just go and buy an inner tube. You could buy a small hand pump, or people want to do CO2, or nowadays we've got the electric pumps.
Yep.
All those bits in there. Just make a little toolkit. You need the Allen keys.
Yep.
You might even just have them at home from an IKEA purchase that you made, or and get your tube from the local shop.
I would say that the quality of the IKEA ones. This is someone that assembles his IKEA furniture with Vera Allen keys. So the quality of the IKEA ones, for anyone thinking about it, is it's okay for a one-off.
Yes.
But if you're going to keep using them, get some proper Allen keys because they are like cheese.
Yeah, I do like my Vera keys.
Yeah.
I've had them for many years. But like I say, when you buy a bike, you usually throw in free. I've got so many free tool kits.
Canyon do them with you get sent them with a torque wrench because most of the bike's common. It's just a basic like beam torque wrench. I think it's not a ratchet to click, but that will get you going on your carbon seat post, your handlebars. So a lot of bikes, new boxed, will come with, as you say, all the essentials you need to get you going.
Yeah, people who know me will know that this is not true for everything, but cycling is a very cheap sport.
Yeah.
And a cheap transport option, unless you decide to start going up the levels where you can start spending 5 figures on a bike and all your tools and etc. It doesn't have to be that expensive.
No. I think the marketing push and what's being put out by, I think even Decathlon are going away from it now, and Halford's going away from it now with 5k plus bikes, and that's what they're pushing into the media.
Yeah.
And everyone's looking at it going, oh my God, how much am I going to have to spend?
Yes, yeah.
But the reality is that you can pick up, from certain marketplaces, from bike jumbles, from even you rent out bikes in your club, don't you, for a short period? Well, not rent, but loan.
Yes, to youth cycling.
To youth cycling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I have heard of a couple of clubs doing it, but with mixed sort of feedback on whether or not the bikes actually worked. But there are very financially accessible options to cycling. Facebook Marketplace. Occasionally you get something that's a bit of a hidden money pit.
Yes.
And you'll need to get it fixed, and the mechanic will tell you something scary. But no, you take someone with you. Like if you join a cycling club and you take a member of the cycling club with you to buy a second-hand bike.
Yes, yeah.
You can get something for like a decent road bike for £150, £200.
Maybe.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, maybe. I would say more like 400.
Yeah, that's.
I'm still talking Rimmies.
Yes.
But
Specialized LA.
Specialized LA, one of the greatest commute bikes that you could have had in London. And also things like rim brake bikes, they are a lot cheaper to deal with than disc brakes. And you're not, unless you're going to go into some specific discipline like cyclocross or whatever else where you're going to get very muddy. Rim brakes are a great tool. Yeah,
they work. They stop you.
Yeah, and they're very easy to maintain.
Yeah, very easy to see when they're running down as well. Yeah, and so you don't have to go mad with money.
No, but you do. It is good to have that support of someone, because if you don't know what you're buying, and you're going to buy some XK Cross something from certain retailer, you're going to end up with something that's. But again, if you did spend a year cycling to work instead of driving, you're going to save so much money that you can go and buy a very nice bike.
Yep.
So, yep.
And even for businesses, there are tax incentives for cargo bikes, for electric bikes.
Yes.
But I think that's a topic in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Youth development. So we touched briefly that it's a big part of Claydon's image.
Yes.
And some of your ethos and your vision. Can you break down your sort of term by term program for the youth riders that you have?
Yeah, so we wanted it to be term time. We looked around at other clubs in the area. What do they do? So we've got rugby clubs, football clubs, etc. So it does run September to July, and it's all within the term basis as well. So we've got 3 terms in the schools, and we've got 3 terms here, and we split those into between the half terms as well. So when the schools are not running, we're not running because a lot of the families are going on holiday or they're away seeing family and friends. So we do that. So the first season, the first discipline we do in September to December is the cyclocross, which runs alongside the Central Cyclocross League that we take part in. And I think that league it attracts a lot of youth riders from a very far away. And that's got a great attendance. That gives us the ability to train these riders and let them take part in these races, which are maybe £3 to £5 for a race, which I think is a very good, very good price. Yeah, for the fact that there's so much that goes into these races. And then July till around April, we've got mountain biking happening, which again is when cross-country mountain bike season starts in the racing leagues. So we do a lot of dropping down hills or going over. We have a lot of games which you think, what's this got to do with mountain biking? But there is a lot of ramps and bridges and other things like limbo. So limbo is, dodging a tree branch.
Yeah.
And so, that's one of our most popular games. And then for this season that we're in now, from May to July, we do the tricks and discipline, tricks and skills. So there we're working on one-handed cycling, balancing, jumping, track standing, things like that you would take into more trial biking as well. So we're trying to cover that, and around all of that we're working with British Cycling on a youth development programme, so we can pass this out nationally and have a kind of progress in that, and with that we're kind of working towards that kind of progress.
For the viewers, the listeners, can you talk a little bit about the progress books?
Okay, so we want to be able to we want our youth riders to be able to see their progress, visually see their progress. We might be noting down in our heads that they're doing great at this ramp or bridge or one-handed cycling, etc. But we want them to be able to see it. So we've put all the skills we're going to learn into a book. We haven't printed it yet, so this is something that's happening next season. So we're going to do a book with all of this in, and they can get stamps on all of their skills that they're doing, and then we've noted down all of the skills, and we've related to that to all of the games we play and the exercises we do. So when we're going to concentrate on a skill that maybe they are haven't put enough time into, we can then look at the games we can play or the exercise we can do, and then at the end of the session we will stamp all of their books or sticker. I think stamping is probably more ecological, a little bit more environmentally friendly, but we can stamp the books and they can take the books home with them so they can see what they're doing. And this is something that we've shared with a lot of other British cycling coaches as an idea, and some of them have talked about apps for this, but really our riders want to see a physical book. And everything that we do in youth coaching is driven by what the youth riders feel. So what they feel is best, what most excites them to do. So they wanted a physical book, and we're making a physical book for them.
That's great.
Yeah.
How do you treat the youth riders to make them feel included so that they respond the best and, how they engage the best? So
before we started youth coaching, I hadn't worked with young people at all. And when we started this, I spoke to a couple of friends who are social workers, and they gave me some really good tips on, how to work with young people. And so we don't refer to them as kids, youngsters, anything like that. We don't put any difference between them and adults. We will classify them as youth riders, but really every time we speak to them, we don't speak down to them. We try and be on the same level as them. We try and understand all of the differences between each rider, because no rider is the same as another rider, even brothers that we have in there, or sisters. So we try and do that, and we tell them what is required in the exercise or game that we're playing, and we make them understand that they have the choice whether to take part or not. Because when we started doing youth cycling, we started experiencing the whole, maybe it's quite a sensitive thing, but the whole neurodiversity, neurotypical that we have in everyday life now. We now understand it. It's always existed, but we understand it more. And some of these riders are going to be experiencing a whole host of neurodiversity. It's not, it's maybe 10% of the riders that we have, but we want to make sure that they feel included.
Yeah.
So it's very important the way we word everything and the way we interact with each rider. So some riders, you can just tell them what they have to do and they'll go off and do it. Other riders, they need that support, they need that encouragement, they need to know that you're there for them. And that's really important. So we are learning every day things like PDA, ADHD, ASD, etc., and all the different ways. So I know every youth rider, and I encourage the adults that bring them along to keep me updated with everything that goes on with the rider, whether they are neurodiverse or neurotypical. I just want to know everything, because everything that we can do to help them. And that's something with cycling. Cycling is an individual sport as well as a team sport.
Yeah.
Whilst things like football, etc., are a team sport, and people can sometimes feel like team is a blame. So they don't like that, and that's the same thing with my son. He loves football, but he didn't like the blame that would come on if someone makes a mistake. Everyone's on top of them. And with cycling, you are a team, but you're also individual.
Yeah.
Because you come over that line, you're getting the points, you're going on the podium, or you're not.
So treating them as adults, as individuals.
Yeah, no need to talk down. They're all capable of understanding everything we say, and also taking their feedback. At the end, we say, which was your favourite game or exercise? Which was your least?
Yeah.
And you get a mix of that. But really, the most favourite thing is the limbo every time. So we start our lessons. We also need... The thing is, we need a structure. So every lesson we do is started with the sumo circle. So it's a big circle of cones, about 12 steps wide, or in diameter. And we can either expand it or contract it. They go into the circle, all of them, and they circle round, and we ask them to change direction. So they need to change direction without hitting everyone else. And
this is on their bikes.
They're in the circle. I learned this on my coaching course from another rider, another coach. So we put them in the circle, and they circle, and that's a really easy game because you just get a couple of cones or something. So we put them in the circle, and they have to. We say change direction, and then we will then go into knockout, which is you have to push other people out of the circle without touching them.
Oh.
So then they are track standing, they are slow riding, and they are trying to push people out. Whilst other people will try and track stand slower, so then they can dive back around them. We do that in teams. So we always start with the same game, which is that. So that's their warm-up that they can do in there, and then it's the first game. The last game is limbo.
Okay.
And that is so as they get knocked out, every rider can then help us pack up the equipment. So we have a welfare officer
That's really good.
and a coach on limbo
Mm-hmm.
taking the limbo down, and then another coach will be packing up all the stuff, and then all the other riders insist that they're going to help. They insist that they will help to pack everything up for us. So everything goes into a pile. We take it all over and put it in the storage.
You said about the welfare officer and people volunteering in the clubs, assisting with the teardown of the youth games that you're doing, particularly with the limbo. For a structure point of view, what is needed to run a youth part of the club?
So 100% you need a welfare officer.
Yep.
That welfare officer could also be a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But we're lucky enough to have a welfare officer who is also a teacher at a local school.
Mm-hmm.
They have their safeguard training. They have their extended DBS check. They have their first aid training. And then you have to have a coach per 10 people.
Okay.
So British Cycling they offer coaching for level ones.
Mm-hmm.
So first stage coaching for about £185. Then you're going to have your first aid, which is something like £150, depending on where you go. You're going to have your DBS check, which is admin fees about £15 to £20.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got your safeguard training, which is about £20 with British Cycling. You have to get your DBS, extended DBS through British Cycling now. It's a brand new way of doing it now.
Okay.
You have to get all those checks done through British Cycling. Your first aid can go with St John's, Red Cross, etc. But your DBS check is managed by British Cycling this year. So it's quite expensive, a couple £100 to start you off. But we charge accordingly. So it's for a year of coaching, it's £85, and in that comes the price we have to pay for renting out the land we use, the price we pay for training up coaches, and doing these DBS checks and first aids, etc. So it's a lot of money. We'll end up breaking even from that hopefully every year. But you cannot have more than 10 riders to a coach for insurance purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 coaches at the moment, and we're always looking to bring more coaches on board.
Okay. So people can join on to you, express an interest in the youth coaching. You mentioned one of them was a teacher.
Yeah.
And she's your welfare officer as well?
Yeah, she is merely welfare officer. She's not a coach.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have 2, we have myself and another coach.
Right.
So there's 3 of us down there usually every week.
No, it's been, having been to the cross races, having seen some of the youth riders from Claydon coming out to them, the maturity that they're presenting at the races, the bike handling skills that they've got, and just like the general, they're very switched on to what they need to be doing. It's great to see that there's that maturity, and perhaps that is in part because you have treated them like adults.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're a very small club. We've got a few podiums we've had, I think, under 8s. We were possibly 3rd last year in the under 8s. Year before that, 2nd. Year before that, 3rd. We've got riders coming on board. They're very new to it. We're going to have to spend some time working on it, but we're hoping to build up a good team.
Yeah.
And winning's not everything.
No, but professionalism speaks volumes.
Yeah, but they're doing it. They're really, and I'm very proud of every rider that comes out and wears the jersey.
You're within multiple villages, as we've already said, so there's a bit of a community entity to that. Can you talk us through a little bit about how you engage with the community locally through the Claydons and through the local villages, and what sort of support that you have? You mentioned, before we started filming, about your local publican, and various other people. So who's involved from the community?
So the way we reach out to the community first was schools. We would go into schools and talk to them about cycling to school, wheeling to school. We use the phrase wheel and walk because it's not just about cycling. Just students wanting to walk to school, scoot to school, or roller skate or whatever they really like to do, skateboard. It makes it really important because villages are most villages were designed before the car.
Yeah.
And so we can see cars mounting pavements and driving along them to get around other cars, or we see them parked on junctions. It's absolute nightmare in every village that I've been to see. And so the way to really work on that is if we've got this homework kind of, work from home thing that happens these days, not for everyone, but if people can just take that time to walk to school or cycle to school or scoot to school, that's what we went into work on. Then we've been back again and talked about cycling as a sport, is with everything we experience with youth coaching and how some people are not that keen on a team sport. What about this? And then we've been in to talk about, generally staying safe on the roads, even if you walk to school, how you can stay safe, because we could try and work on the motorists, who are causing the danger. But to be honest, you've got to look after yourself. And so if we can talk to the students and say, have a little, let's just make sure we check twice before we cross the road. So it doesn't just, what we do as Claydon Cycling Club isn't just about cycling. It's about all forms of transport, health and fitness. We're not campaigning for the ban of the car or people to stop log burning or other things like that. We just want people to enjoy themselves, and if we can help out with that, we do take some of what we earn in the club that's left over. We are a community interest company, so we will be looking to pay back to the community in any way we can. We'll be going to fetes and taking bikes along to fetes, so any of these young people can try out our skills course, our seesaws, our bridges, our ramps, any of the games we play. Give them a little insight for free, just so they have a bit of fun. Or adults, like Academy again was us giving back, consulting with the council. So we write articles all the time, and the company that are building the Greenway near here contacted us and said, you know a lot and we'd love to work with you on the Greenway. So, can you give us some advice on what you think of our route? And we looked at it and said, well, it's kind of going a little bit around the houses. Why don't we just draw a straight line from one place to another and see how close we can keep to it? And we helped them change the design to be very much more of a straight line between here and the next town.
I think a lot of the greenwashing cycle paths that you get, and I'm not trying to label them as greenwashing, but some of the stuff that I've had local to me with HS2 has been, they've rerouted roads, they've introduced a cycle path, but they've also introduced a big hill over the railway. So if you were, I don't know, it's not particularly steep up into Stone, but it's still a hill up from Aylesbury.
Yeah.
And they've introduced something that takes it from being a consistent 3-4% gradient to 3%, 10%, and then back down to the pub.
Yeah, I think we'd all not like 10% on our road bikes.
It's probably not that bad, but it's still that it for me it's a real positive that you've got these companies coming to you for the work that you've been doing, the expertise that you've been writing about, and asking for your advice and actually saying, we want to engage with you, we want to understand what cyclists want, because perhaps we're not cyclists ourselves.
Yeah, and we you say about introducing these hills, I don't think you're going to get around that with introducing a new railway. You're going to need these banked hills, but then that's where we're at the moment. We've had a cargo e-bike given to us for a month, so then we can write an article about it, and I've been out on it nearly every day. I've been taking my children to school. I've been taking a recent DIY project I did. I had a load of rubbish. I had 4 bags of rubbish, an old toilet seat, etc. That was all in the front. Went up to the tip to drop it off. I did get told that I need a permit for a bicycle in a tip, so I applied for it online whilst I waited outside. But yeah, jumped, there's a whole queue of cars there, went past them all, into the tip, dropped it off, then went back again, went into my local supermarket, got a couple of days worth of shopping. That was in the front, 16 pints of milk and all in the front, and then just going around it. And because it's an e-cargo bike, when I get to the hills, I still carry on cycling. It's doing a lot of work for me up until 15-ish miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's not a motorbike, e-motorbike, but it does most of the work for me. So I'm taking it a lot easier. I'm not racing around at 20 miles an hour.
No.
But those hills just disappear when you've got an e-bike. So I think that's something that we have tried to help people understand with our friends at Fully Charged in Silverstone, that an e-bike can really help you with the hills. And a lot of people say, I'd cycle, but how can I cycle to work with all these hills?
Yeah. Fully Charged are an electric bike specialist, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. So they sell e-bikes. They started off in London. They're over in London Bridge. They're very busy down there. Last time we went in to see them in London Bridge, they're just packed with people who are really interested in this, because London is changing big time with bikes now. We're talking 52-56% of all journeys are by bike in London. So they're trying to catch up to France, which is now the best city for cycling in the world.
Paris has got the most amount of cycle paths, hasn't it, for any large city?
The transformation is huge in Paris. I mean, I thought Amsterdam was good, but Paris is amazing. And they've got London there, and they're branching out. And Silverstone, they've got a good relationship with the Milton Keynes City Council, and other councils around the area, where they will help people to borrow these bikes for a month to see if they like them, and then they'll help them to get a bike. You can even loan the bikes off them. I think it's £120 a month for loaning a bike.
A cargo bike.
I think so. You don't hold me to that.
I won't hold you to that. But
Yeah.
I've finished up loaning a Brompton for the best part of a year.
Yeah.
That was just a normal like M6L kind of Brompton, but you can loan the electric one for £50 a month.
Right.
No, £100 a month.
Okay.
Something like that. It's there's money there for the electric bike, but considering the jump from folding bike to cargo bike isn't actually that much.
Yeah.
Loaning a cargo bike for a third of what you'd be leasing a car for.
Yes.
I mean, my car is a Hyundai i10. It's like the smallest car you can lease, that or a Kia something or other.
Yeah.
And that's $250 a month, not including insurance, not including. Well, it's not taxable because it's new, but it's that's a massive step down from and. Your cargo bike probably has more boot capacity than the boot on my car.
I can get about 70 kilos in there, 70 to 80 kilos worth of stuff.
Crikey.
I mean, then that could be, you could have 70 kilos of lead. It's not going to take all space. Or I could have a lot of duck feathers in there, and I wouldn't be able to fill it up as much.
Yeah.
Because it's space that's the problem. That space, weight is fine. But also, I used to have a client in vehicle remarketing, and when you see the devaluation of cars, it's huge. Whilst I reckon if an e-cargo bike might cut itself in half in price in about 5 years, but then they don't cost that much. That bike there, I think, is 4.5.
Yeah.
With a single battery, I can get 30-mile range on it, or 25-mile range. That one's got 50 to 60 miles because I've got a spare battery on it.
Most people aren't going that far anyway.
No. But then again, I don't charge it every day. I've had it for a couple of weeks now, and I've been doing about 50 miles a week on it. Just going back and forward to the shops. And I've got some shared path some of the way, but shared path is disconnected. So I'm dropping onto the road sometimes, and also safety of pedestrians. Shared paths when you're riding on a bike. I'm riding slow on that one, but I still feel it's really quite dangerous for pedestrians.
Well, 15 to 15.5 miles an hour, and you said 70 kilos of stuff. The bike itself probably weighs 50, 60?
30 to 40, I'd say, yeah.
That's not too bad, but it's still, like, you consider the mass of a human, the mass of the cargo,
the
mass of the bike,
batteries,
motor, all the rest of it. That hits you at 15.5 miles an hour. It's not going to hurt as much as a car, but it's still going to hurt.
So if I can't see straight, I am right down to slow around a corner and hands ready to brake, because I just do not want to hit anyone with that. But I will drop onto the road if it's just a lot of windy shared path. I'll drop on the road for a bit, because it's just not worth anything to be causing danger.
I think the shared paths are nice if you're, like in my village, you can use the shared path to cycle from one end to the other. And there's a bunch of housing developments at one end and the schools at the other.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's really good, because you've got kids riding, at the same pace that perhaps their parents are walking.
Mm-hmm.
But from a perspective of, if you or I were to go to the shop, even on a regular bike, loaded bike, there's just not enough space on these shared paths at the moment.
There's not enough space. You try to move that cargo bike around, or when you come to a junction and then you have to go around a little bit more, and then you have to sharp left. Fine on a little bike, but on a long cargo bike, front loaders, absolute nightmare. But and also you guys, I went shopping to Lidl, and Tesco. The bike racks were available there. It was tight squeeze to get it in, so I had to go on the end. So they don't really consider cargo bikes. I went to Aldi, and their Oxford stands were just full of trolleys.
Oh.
So I asked them, I said, look, I've got this outside. I came out and I said, the trolleys, said, if I come here next week, will you still have these trolleys here? Oh, no, we'll sort that out. I went back next week, they were still there.
Yeah.
So I'm no offence to Aldi, but I'm not shopping in there now, because I can't be bothered to go further down when I can just go to another shop that's got some provision. But definitely there's lacking in provision for alternative cycles.
Yeah. I've seen that with other towns as well. So there's Buzz Cycles do something similar over towards Leighton Buzzard, and they've got a Lidl towards them, and they put in like 3 bike racks, no consideration for cargo bikes.
Yes.
And I think they are becoming more popular now. I lived in Cambridge for a year and a half, and you see Backfield style cargo bikes all over the place. People are taking their kids to school because it's the best way to get around Cambridge.
Yes.
Same with Oxford. And it's slowly seeping out into smaller towns, and you start to see it a bit more.
Yeah.
I think supermarkets really are going to have to start considering these bigger bikes, because there's motorcycle parking, there's bicycle parking, but there's not. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that you need bike parking for tandems as well, but cargo bikes, I think, are going to become a bit bigger part of everyday life for everyone. We're going to see more and more of them.
I think with the right engagement, yes. I think, because people say, I've got kids, I need a car.
Yeah.
So the right engagement, and also when I'm riding around that cargo bike, I'm taking my daughter from here up to the village hall for ballet. Oh, it's turning heads. I went and voted on the cargo bike. Oh, well, what's going on here? And I'm drawing out all the council staff who are voting, because they'll come and have a look at this, and they're all taking photos of it in front of the vote here sign.
Yeah.
You see on our social media, we usually, when something is going on like that, we usually are with our bikes up there to say, why don't you walk? Why don't you, instead of driving, why don't you walk or wheel to vote? So we don't force on people, we're just suggesting. But I think with the
sort of like a soft advertising,
with the right engagement, we can do things. Living in a city, Oxford, Milton Keynes, Cambridge, London, etc. You can live without a car. They have car clubs there as well, because that works.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know about ones in the UK, but some of them can end up being quite reasonable.
Yeah,
to be a member of.
etc. Hertz, Connect, whatever. They in London, they've worked for years, because having a car all the time, say about devaluation of a car. That if you're leasing a car out, you're paying mostly for the devaluation.
Yeah,
and it's expensive, but also buying a car outright, silly money. So
well, buying a new car outright anyway.
Yeah.
No, it's. I don't know. The car scheme makes sense, but I agree that there needs to be the right approach to walking, cycling, scooting, just any sort of active transport.
I think too many organisations are making motorists feel like the plan is to get rid of all cars. And really, we cannot live our lives most of the time we can, but not all of our lives can be
No.
led without a car or some other kind of larger piece of transport.
Yeah.
But Londoners have shown that they can live without a car and use public transport, and then when they need a van or something, they can rent it out for an hour or a day.
Yeah.
Or if they need to have a car for going further afield, you can rent it out.
I think London and cities are an exception a little bit because you've got all the gubbins that you need
Yeah.
within. London's quite long to drive through, actually.
Yeah.
But you've got everything there within London.
And a large population density.
Yeah. Everything's contained. You have
Yeah.
your pharmacies, you have your supermarkets, you have your DIY stores, and they're all contained within a reasonable distance that you could rent a van for a few hours.
They just need to take it a little bit. Just don't be. You're going to upset motorists if they feel like they are being hounded. You just need to introduce. There are different options.
Yep.
You don't need to take that option, but there are different options there. Things cost money.
Mm-hmm.
If we're building more roads, tunnels, etc., that are just for cars, we're going to have to try and get money back from that. This is like Silvertown Tunnel. It's not very popular, but at least they're saying, look, you got to pay for it because it's for you guys. But it certainly is. I can see why motorists would be upset about that tunnel having to pay £4 to go through it.
Yeah. Do you think alternative cycles need to be factored in as well? So not just cargo bikes, because I'm now going to put them in with conventional cycles because, but for people particularly with that have adapted cycles for disabilities, like hand cycles or recumbents aren't really one that I call alternative, but e-cycles.
Okay.
And the way that they're adapted, do you think there needs to be more of a push for awareness of those? We see things about bollards blocking people in. And
yeah. So with e-bikes, from my knowledge, came out for mountain biking first. That's where I first saw it. But really, day to day, people do not see accessibility cycles. You don't see that you don't see it in the shops, and you don't see it on the social media. It doesn't really. Disability in the UK, it's about 17% of the population are disabled, and of that, we're talking about 10% severe disabilities. We have a lot of hidden disabilities in there, but I went forward to East West Rail Alliance when they were building Winslow Station, and I said to them, have you thought about accessibility? Oh yes, we've got lifts down to the platforms and we've got ramps in. I said, okay, what about accessibility with cycling? We've got a cycle rack, we've got a bicycle rack here. And I said, well, the bicycle rack, if everything on the bottom's taken, how do people get the ones down from the top and put up? I said, not everyone's able to do that. So I showed them a few images of some of the friends that I have with disability mobility cycles, and they're like, "What? I didn't even know these things existed." So I spent 3 hours guiding them through all of this and how they could improve it. And then the response I got back was, "Oh, we've decided to give everything outside of the station building to Buckinghamshire Council. So you're going to have to go back and talk to them about this." So it's unfortunate. I think we could get very upset and angry about this, but you've just got to keep working hard. And that's another part of the club, is to make people aware that it's not just a bicycle. We're not just looking at some no suspension mountain bike from the 90s. It's not about e-motorbikes. The E in e-bikes for me is empowerment. So it's not. It's about all different range of people, different ages, different abilities that can now cycle more because they have that assist from an e-bike. We're not talking about delivery drivers or other, illegal mods and stuff like that. This is what we're looking at. So we want to help people, and they don't have to be a club member. But if people come to us and say, when Winslow opens, I want to cycle there. Will they have secure parking? And we say, well, they've got this rain cover over their 2-tier bike system, but we are trying to get the council to understand, what about bike lockers? They're so popular in Milton Keynes. They're about £50 a year, £50 deposit, £50 deposit, and then £50 a year rent, and they're always on a waiting list. And they're about £500 a locker. But if you're encouraging more people to cycle, that means you've got less people driving there and clogging up the entrance for quite a small park. 375 places in the parking space, which is about the same as the capacity of one train. So, we'd like to enable more people to be able to active travel to things like train stations or shops or whatever, even if they have a disability.
Winslow particularly, you should be able to get quite a lot of people walking.
People in Winslow,
in Winslow,
yeah.
For the people in the outside villages, there definitely needs to be something that gets them
and we
safely.
We don't cover Winslow as a club, but we do access Winslow as a club. So we think it's important for the people that we want to represent in the Claydons that they can get to they can get to Buckingham, they can get to Winslow, they can get to the shops, they can get to the public transport, or they can get to other things that they need in their life. So it's important. That's an important part for us, is accessibility.
I'm going to pivot a little bit. I want to touch on Men and Sheds and what you've been doing for them, because it's a bit of an offshoot from cycling necessarily, but you have used Men and Sheds, and you've mentioned off camera about building some of your seesaws and some of the infrastructure. But I think it's an important topic to touch on, and two, it's very interesting.
So when we started youth coaching, when we started with our Summer of Cycling programme, we didn't have any equipment. So we said, that's fine, let's go out and buy some equipment. And we were looking at thousands of pounds because people were buying things in sets. So we went down to a timber yard, and we bought a few things, and I did them in my garage. I assembled it in my garage, and hand saws and jigsaws, etc. Wavy lines were appearing, and someone said to me, one of the counsellors from around here said to me, "Why don't you try Men in Sheds?" I'm a member of Men in Sheds. They're in Winslow. So they put me in touch with them, and I emailed them and asked them if I could do it, and they said, "Well, come over and see us." So I went over, had a tour. They're very inviting group of men over there, and Men in Sheds it's a charity that was started in Australia, and it's about helping men deal with problems that maybe they feel that they can't talk about. We generally, especially in the UK, we have a lot of problems with male suicide, and so I did go over there. They gave me a full bay of space, which is not a lot of people don't have that kind of space, but I'm building big things, and they said, come over here, we'll clean up these things left in this bay, and we'll give the bay to you. I paid my membership, which I think was £12, and I paid that personally, not as the club. And I went down there. I ordered in a load of things from the timber yard. They delivered them to Men in Sheds. Men in Sheds took them in for me. I wasn't there at the time, and they packed them all up on a pallet so it didn't get wet on the floor if there was any water on the floor. And I went in and had my ideas. I started drawing them out, and some of the other members there started training me up on the bandsaws and the circular saws, and got me working on it, and just gave me advice all the way along. And I've been building rollers, seesaws, huge seesaws, ramps, and other bits and bobs there. And it's a really nice group of chaps who have got some years of experience in manufacturing and painting and other etc. So when I have an issue, I can speak to them. Also, it's great to just go in there and any other life things, just have a chat about it, and people can give you their opinion. There's also other people in there that I've spent time chatting to who just wanted someone to talk to. So I will happily go in there when I have time off and spend the first hour maybe talking to people who want to just have a chat, and then we all kind of get working on what we're doing. So it's a lovely place to be.
So everyone's got their own little individual projects. And
Yeah. We've got some people who wanted to convert an old ambulance.
Cool.
We've got some people who've had their classic cars in there.
Mhm.
Other people who are building stuff for schools, like mud kitchens. We've got people who are refurbishing benches from care homes. Just helping out the community. We do have some people who contact men in sheds and say, I've got this wedding going on and I want a very large frame so people can sign it with a chalk pen. Okay, so they find the wood in there, or if there's a specific wood that these people want, they'll bring it in, and then we don't ask for money, but we do say if you can help us with a contribution to our to the charity.
Yeah.
And we recommend a contribution amount for what we've made. But for me, I am just I'm just building lots of bike stuff in there.
So some of the bike stuff you've made are your limbo set.
Yes, limbo.
Hurdles.
Yes, I've got the knockdown hurdles. Yeah.
And speaking of hurdles, I wanted to talk about, what did you call it? Crossrail.
Yeah.
But not the crossrail that you're thinking of.
Right.
This is not the Elizabeth line. This is John's repurposing of the hashtag.
Yes.
At Buckinghamshire Railway Centre.
Yes.
For the Central Cyclocross League.
Yeah. So we took part in cyclocross for 2 years in a row, and we were interested in hosting our own event. We'd looked around at places, but one of the most important things with cyclocross is having a hard-standing car park, because lots of people are turning up in their vans with all their kit in it, and obviously you have people travelling from quite a distance. So we looked at Wadston Manor, and we had a chat with a local publican who put me in touch with a councillor, Councillor Waite, and we were planning to go forward to Wadston, but with Wadston there's quite a few entities that are in charge of it. So if you want to do something there, you have to get, I think, all 4 groups that manage it together to agree on things. And the councillor said to me, look, I think you're going to struggle getting 4 people together, 4 groups together to agree. So why don't you try the Buckinghamshire Railway Centre? Here's a name, go down there, give them a call, go down. And I did that. And straight away they said, yeah, we're happy to do that, because we're closed in November. We're setting up for the Christmas entertainment they do. So we're closed in November. You're absolutely fine to do it. We went down there, and the field that they have at the top in the showground was a little bit too small for what we wanted to do. They did have a site office there. They had running water. They had electricity. They had internet connection. They had a router on a pole. So we were offered all of that. But I said, well, what about the field at the top? And they said, oh, that's not our field. But we know who it does belong to. It belongs to a trust, and a farmer uses it for silage. So they then went off on their own and contacted the owner and arranged for us to use it, and it was very kindly gifted to us. So they've done all of that for us, and then we basically went to work documenting, getting the first aid sorted out, all the first responders. CCXL really helped us with setting this up. They gave us a lot of documentation. A lot of other event organisers stepped in and gave us what they'd been doing, so we knew what we had to do. We then had a list of vendors given to us by the Railway Centre, so we could contact them. We got booked in coffee and cakes. We got booked in a beer vendor, who's actually been a friend of the clubs for a while, and we got a Belgium chip van booked in, which is a popular one on that course. And we did all the course planning. One of our coaches is an architect, and he planned the course out. And then we had a lot of volunteers. We had volunteers from Men in Sheds.
Mm-hmm.
We had volunteers from the Buckingham and Winslow, both in cycle clubs. We had volunteers, family and friends, people in the village here, and obviously, most importantly, our members of our club. And we managed to pull it off. We were building up for a week before, or I think 2 weeks beforehand. We built up on social media talking about it. We were writing news articles. We were doing radio appearances. We were reaching out to universities. We reached out to the military because they have cycling clubs.
Mm-hmm.
We reached out to every club in the area who visits the cafe in Quainton where we hosted this. And spoke to them about it, and we spoke about don't have to be a pro at this. We have an entry level for adults, and young people. We reached out to schools. We phoned every school in the area and said, "Come along. It's only £3 or £5, depending on age. Come and take part. It's a great experience." So we had a good experience there.
The whole day, people were going up and down the track from the car park back to the showground where you had it. So there seemed to be really good footfall. I think you said that there were about 300 riders.
There were 298 riders
And spectators?
About 1.5 to 2,000. When they have events at the railway centre, the car park is usually pretty full. When we had our event there, we overflowed the car park and we had to use another field around the back. And there was a bit of panic because we had so many people coming in, and we also had people from the village coming down because they saw what was going on, and we'd also promote it to them. We had dog walkers who regularly come in, who were coming up and asking questions about it. We promoted it so heavily that Cycling Weekly contacted us.
Really?
And asked for a race report and some photos. So we got into the print version of Cycling Weekly.
Brilliant.
We had the newspapers turn up. We had 4 newspaper photographers turn up, who were then taking photos and writing articles about it. We really went hard on it.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot to live up to this year now.
The scale, like knowing you've gone into the overflow, knowing that they do big classic car rallies there, big steam rallies there, big festivals there, that you filled the car park and then you've started filling the overflow car park is nuts. For anyone at home, Google Earth or Google Maps, just have a look at the size of the car park at Buckinghamshire Railway Centre, because it's a big car park to fill.
Yeah.
So it's impressive that you got that. It's a really good attendance for riders, a really good attendance for spectators, and I think it's, I joked earlier, it's totally unique that you had Thomas the Tank Engine at the cyclocross.
I think he has to keep his face covered when he's.
That has to be an official Thomas Day. So Thomas the Tank Engine wasn't at the cyclocross. His lookalike was.
He was hidden away. Yeah, he wasn't out for stage. But and the thing is about volunteers, we were up at 5 a.m. that Sunday morning.
Yeah,
we had to be on site for 7 to let everyone in and get all the car park set up, and then we were there at sundown to pack everything up so the next club could have the trailer.
Yeah.
Everything away. We got helped out by other members, other clubs, put everything away, but we had all our volunteers on site, and we actually gave a pair of socks that we bought extra socks. We had socks for the adult winners. We gave a pair of socks to every volunteer, but we also gave them a packed lunch and coffee and drinks, and we made sure they were all happy. But they're such a great gang of people to help us out. And then after that, when we packed everything away and gone home, I was writing up the race report for Cycling Weekly. The photographers were sending me in photos so we could get it in there as well, so that when everyone had raced and gone home, we were still working hard to get everything done. And then the week afterwards, we were doing all of the results. We were doing the preliminary results, the secondary results. We were doing the payments to British Cycling, the payments to Cyclocross, because they all have charges on top. We were making sure all the timing team were paid, all the first responders. We were getting all of that. So for most people attending, it's one day. For us, it's about a month of constant work. So
it's a lot.
Yeah, Yeah, because we're going through all of this risk assessments and sponsorships and promotion and vendor management, and we have to check the vendors' insurance stuff and all their legalities. So it is a big thing.
You touched on socks, so I think that's a really nice segue to Santini.
Yeah.
Can you just touch on how you've built a relationship with Santini and how working as a club and as a business in the cycling sphere has worked together, and what they've done to support you, and what in return they sort of get back? How does the relationship back and forth work?
So we had a with our cycling kit, when we didn't do a cycling kit first, then we had a lot of our adult members asking for a cycling kit, where what we can do with it. So I think year 2 we went out and we shopped around for the best quality cycling gear we could find at the best price. So we went to someone else, and we got that kit. It's amazing, still love it. With our youth riders, we went to the same vendor and asked them for youth kit, and they came back with the same price as adult kit.
Show the kit.
But this, we then shopped around a bit more. The youth, before we do this, the youth team wanted a kit, so we shopped around and we spoke to Santini, and Santini said to us, definitely, we can do this kit for you, and we're not going to charge you full adult price for it. So the jersey, is £21, I believe, and it's like £21 with
you got full 3 pockets.
Full 3 pockets, yes.
Reflective piping on the edges.
Yeah.
This isn't an advert for Santini.
No, it's
this
like
is just
home shopping channel. But yeah, absolutely lovely kit. Really love this one. And then the bib. We know that the inserts on these cost. So the bib shorts, I think they are £26. And Santini promo on the back, but we've got the brand on the side, and so we sell this as a full kit. That's really how it comes, because when we order stuff in, we have to get it all in. So it's something that we want to do, is that comes in a lovely bag.
And you manage your cycling kit slightly differently from how some clubs would, don't you? So you said that you buy it in bulk rather than waiting for a window where people can order.
For the youth kit, we do. Yeah, for the youth kit, we want, because we have people joining us. We have young riders joining us throughout the year, and we want them, if they want a kit, they can come to us and ask for a kit straight away, and we'll usually have it in stock that they can have it straight away. Because I feel like at first we wanted to we wanted to coach for as cheap as possible, but the riders were saying to us, we want to be a team, and we want to look like a team. So yes, we went out, and like I say, our previous supplier was a little bit too expensive, and we went and spoke to Santini, and not only did they do the youth kit for us, but they said, hey, with your cyclocross, we would like to give you prizes for every podium place. And that's a lot when you've got under 8s, under 10s, under 12s, under 14s, under 16s, juniors. 3 bags, 3 musettes, 3 bottles, 3 caps. So every race. So each rider was getting one of those each, and we had to have like 30 or so of them. So
okay.
And they said, yes, we want to help you out. We loved how you're doing. So they are, I'm not paid to advertise them.
Nope.
It's just great when you can get people to help you out with youth coaching. That's what we need, is coaching. We need help. We need not crying out for help, but the support of manufacturers and bike manufacturers, kit manufacturers, etc., to promote young people, getting them into a sport.
If you had a message that you could convey across to a shop that was, and shops that I've worked for and that I know and that you know are keen to support clubs.
Yeah.
And I think for quite a few it's commonplace, but for some perhaps they're hesitant. What
Yeah.
would be your message to those that are hesitant to support cycling clubs from their business?
So for the independent bike shops, the local bike shops, we're not, we're not looking for them to just give us big wedges of cash.
Yeah.
What we need is we need independent bike shops or local bike shops that want to help us out by, we want to send our riders and the adults as well, whoever's buying the kit their way for a good experience.
Yeah.
That's, customer service is very important, but having that experience of a good shop, but also getting the good kit. And we've had that from local bike shops. They understand, they ask us questions about how we're coaching, what's our experience, and we go through all that, and they do a good job of doing that. For the larger like brand names, they can help us out. We buy a few second-hand bikes, cyclocross, mountain bikes, etc., and we work on them ourselves, so that we can give our riders the bike that might take them that little bit further.
Yeah.
Without having to go and buy a bike and then finding out that it's not for them or the whole sport's not for them. So we do lease out, we do borrow out bikes to our riders for 4 weeks so they can try it out. And we just ask this returned in as good as condition as we gave it to them. So, if you have any punctures, if you do manage to, damage the tyres or something, just can you just replace that? But we're not asking it for it to be, better than, just as good as we gave it to you.
Request.
So that's really, we struggle with land ownership. We struggle with finding places that we've got lots of little hills that we can do mountain bike training, or, we're okay for our cyclocross because we have a flat grass, which is mostly what our cyclocross riders are using at this age. But also like road and track cycling, very difficult. With our one of our neighbour youth cycling groups now finishing, we will be looking to offer out to their members to come over and try us out. But we don't have the track that they do, and we don't have access to it because it's half an hour away. Whilst we do have some old airfields around here we could try and get in with, so that's what we're working on. Yeah.
So land was because Bovington's got the bomber.
Yeah.
But that's more of a race rather than a training ground. But I do remember, I can't remember how many years ago, Leighton Buzzard managed to lease out the bowl at least for one evening.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for the king and queen of the bowl. It wasn't the races. This was a admittedly introduction to race skills. So it was still of that ilk, but a big space like that where you've got a circuit and it's reasonably well paved.
Yeah.
I suppose that's quite hard to come by unless you know the landowner.
Yes. Yeah. It's very much who you know.
Yeah.
We with the National Bowl, from now until the end of summer, it's not available to book because, or at least at the weekends, because they're doing a lot of festivals there.
Yeah.
So they take a week to set up and a week to tear down.
Oh, okay.
So then they're back to back with things which they weren't at previously, but I think with the new owners on board, they want to try and get as much as they can out of that. But there is a provision in which says it always has to be available to cyclists, the outer track. So there was some question of the inner part being a football training ground. I don't know what's going on with that.
The inner part being a football training ground?
For the Milton Keynes football team.
Okay. I was just questioning
The flat
the geography.
bit
Okay, the flat bit. I
in the
thought the
middle.
flat bit was all tarmac.
No, it's all grass. It's grass, mate. Grass.
Okay.
That's quite a distance for people to travel for us. So we do have a couple of places around that we're going to try and talk to and see what we can do.
Well, very best of luck with that.
Yeah.
I really hope they let you in because and speaking to a couple of other people, not only just on this podcast but out on club rides, I think there is a yearning from people in cycling to have somewhere away from cars, away from traffic that they can ride fairly safely, do pace lines, do that sort of thing, but not worry about Mr. Angry in his big car.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm not saying that happens every club ride. Sometimes it's a rarity, and I generally think things have got better and can continue to do so. But that off-road place, like Lee Valley Villa Park,
Okay, yeah.
would be the gold standard to
Yes,
have
yeah.
in any town. I think that's probably a bit of a stretch, but
Yeah, that or Manchester, where British Cycling are based.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, and that's the thing is with British Cycling, I've got a meeting with them tomorrow night. We have meetings with them all the time, emails going back and forward, because we're really looking to work with them to promote youth cycling. So it is our biggest thing.
How does you mentioned a little bit about reflections between like shops and brands and industry support, but how does that sort of parallel across with other clubs that you've seen? So you mentioned a little bit about football clubs, rugby clubs. Do you see any parallels that can be drawn from industry support, say like Puma support this football club, or do you see parallels for cycling?
I think maybe Premier League have supported grassroots football with equipment, and British Cycling and others have supported cycling with equipment. We've certainly been supported from certain organisations with some of our kit, and other parts of it we are, we're funding ourselves.
Yeah.
So the money that we bring in from membership, plus the money from cyclocross, we will then use on equipment for youth coaching, which we also use for adult coaching if we were going to go into that as well. But so we have club kit, and also the outreach stuff we do, bikeability discount for any kind of pupil premium or others. So we will offer out these things just to encourage more people. So we can go out there and do the hard work, trying to get the money in, but we want to be able to have an impact on the community, and that is everything about CIC status that we have. So that's probably not what you'll see in many other clubs, but
No,
that's what we have.
Some clubs seem to be people riding together and bums on seats, which is great, but what you're doing is and not to discount bums on seat, but what you're doing is a step beyond with outreach, community feedback, and that almost like cyclical loop of we feed into the community grows. We grow the club, we grow the community, we grow how many people are cycling or scooting or walking.
Yeah, and you say bums on seats. It's not important for us to have the biggest number. What's important is having the greatest impact that we can give. And if we're doing a good job with our impact, then we can be happy that we've managed to achieve our goal.
Yeah.
So if that impact is an increase of young people walking or wheeling to school, or an increase of adults cycling to work, or an increase of the less, the disabled community, maybe we want to call it that, but an increase of people being more able to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And not feeling like they are stuck relying upon other people or stuck in their homes. We want to be able to do that. And even we might have families who can't afford to teach their children to cycle because they've got to get a bike or get a helmet or something. If there's a way we can step in, and there are other community groups around, especially at the railway centre, who do this as well. So we always are open to discussion, and I just think we've really lost our ability. When you and I were, pre-teens maybe, cycling was like a life lesson and right, and now it seems that people want to label it as a toy.
No.
When it used to be our way of getting around, our freedom.
It was never a toy. It was, this is how I get to school, this is how I go to the shops, this is how I go and see my grandparents.
See your friends.
See your friends.
Yeah.
Explore new places.
Yeah.
And bikes can be a game changer for students, for young people, for anyone really.
Yeah, because affording a car is truly a luxury when you take it to get your vehicle tax, when you take it to MOT, or just when you're filling it up, and it's going to cost you 60, 70, 80 pounds or whatever, and you think that only 20-25% of what you're paying at the petrol pump goes towards moving the wheels forward. Some people just cannot afford that. And if we want to, we have all these political things to say about getting people into work. I know enough people who live in the villages and they cannot afford, the bus service is terrible. They can't afford to buy a car to get to work. So they say, well, I can't get a job. So, how do we help these people out to be able to get that job? Because once they've got that job, yes, they can save up for a car if they want, or they can carry on cycling. But one less person having to claim for, help because they can't work versus actually earning, that becomes a whole nother political world.
Yeah.
But, if we can help people out who want to do something and we can do something to help them out doing it, then that's another objective achieved.
So you're bringing almost economic stability to villages as well as access. Well, economic stability through accessibility.
Yeah, and I think as well, if you are, say, benefits, but if you're on job seeker allowance or something and you're just struggling to find a job and you are spending every day just trying to apply for everything, and then you think, well, that's so far away, I can't get there.
Yeah.
You're going to start running your head into the ground. You run yourself into the ground, and mentally you're going to struggle. So a bicycle can be a massive freedom if you can get access to one. I would love our council to be able to offer e-bikes to people who want to get into work. Yeah, and then they might say at the end, well, I've earned enough money and I like e-biking, so I'd like to rent this bike out, or I'd like to buy a bike. Or they might just say, well, I've earned enough money now that I can afford a car, and they're going and they're carrying on working.
There's a few schemes out there that do it. I just don't think they're widespread enough.
No, and also people think that bikes, if you live in a village, you can't possibly get to work on a bike. Well, our latest in production video is doing as much as we can on a bike. And yes, it's a big cargo bike, but it's still a lot cheaper than a car.
Yeah. Moving more towards like the future, what are your next goals with, and as Claydon Cycling Club, within everything really, from youth development to walking and wheeling, and how you want to bring your vision to the wider UK or worldwide? Because what you're doing with kids cycling, I think, is game changing. Not to play on the game part, but the games that you've made, the engagement that you've told me that the youth cyclists have, is fantastic. So what's next, John?
I think everything we do is based on what people tell us, and so the next thing is going to be reaching out to more people who want us to do something for them. They want us to help them get cycling.
Yeah.
Whatever their age is and whatever it's for, we will carry on. We'll carry on. We're not going out there and shoving it in people's faces. We don't believe in that. What we're going to do, we're going out and putting and showing people what can be done. And if they want to do it, they can always reach out to us and say, "Hey, I want to do this. Can you tell me this?" We had someone. This is a bit sad, really, but we had someone say to us, "I've looked around for cycling clubs for under 18s. You're a bit far away, but you come up as the top in the search online. Where are you then?" Yeah, we're in Silverstone." Okay, well, Silverstone's not too far away, but we are the closest club to Silverstone. We're the closest club. Hales Owen is the next club north, and then Kettering. and then we've got going south. It might be Hillingdon. There's not a lot of youth clubs around. So as a sport for youth people, we need to reach out more. We need to do more. People wanting to get to work, people wanting to active travel. We're out, even councils wanting some advice. We can help you out. Just need to reach out.
I really hope that they'll do that because I think it's needed. You've got cycling hubs you can call Cambridge a cycling hub, but I think it's not by design. It's just kind of happened by purpose. So that's a real positive. What would you do to get there, or what would you need to get there?
Cyclocross is a huge event,
yeah.
So I think we would leave that one, but we would like to host some youth circuit events.
Mm-hmm.
We already have British Cycling commissaires doing that, and we'd like to help support them. We'd like to probably appear at some more town and village fetes, a bit more exposure, but we'd really love, like say, the councils to be reaching out to us and saying, tell us what we need to do. We want to encourage more people to cycle, but can you tell us what to do? They might have their own teams. I've met teams from councils who have said, but we're the active travel team, but we didn't know everything you've just told us. I'm like, that's fine, but also you didn't pay for it, so you can have it for free. It's no problem. But we would really like some help in return for doing this.
Yeah.
So it's never about making money. It's about just encouraging more people to do this.
I'm definitely getting in touch with Claydon CC if you're interested in anything like youth development, outreach, infrastructure, greenways, or redways, depending if you're Milton Keynes or outside of Milton Keynes. How can people get involved with what you're doing?
So the website.
Okay.
We have a regularly updated website with all our news articles on there. You can contact us on the website, or you can email us. We for the youth stuff, it's youth@claydoncyclingclub.com, or you can just get through on comms at claydoncyclingclub.com. Also, most people contact us on social media, so it is at Claydon Cycling Club on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. And just feel free to reach out to us. Whatever you want to ask, we're happy to do that. We've had some good questions come through to us, so we always encourage people to just get on a message to us.
And you'll if people are in the local area, so I'm in Stone, so you're actually probably at the same distance to the Leighton Buzzard Club as I am. But I'm not staying in Buckinghamshire, I'm moving. For people in the local areas, you mentioned people as far as Haddenham, Silverstone, Winslow areas, and having a quite broad coverage across the villages in Buckinghamshire. Where can people join your rides if they're interested?
So you can find all the rides that we're running on the website, on the event section. Sign up, first 3 rides for free, which I think is a general rule in cycling. And then we run everything from Steeple Claydon. So Molly's Cafe in Steeple Claydon is where we start everything. It's where we end everything usually. And we do not just road riding, we do gravel riding, we do cross-country riding. We also take part in races and cyclocross. So if you want to give cyclocross a try, get in touch with us, because we can introduce you to cyclocross. And I think our first race of next season is on the 13th of September. But check out the Central Cyclocross League website. Just give that a search and you'll find it.
I will put links to everything in the description below on Spotify and YouTube. You can find links to Claydon CC's website, their email address, contact details, etc., etc. John, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and really, really interesting. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This has been The Road Ahead, and stay tuned for more.